Thank you so much, Terry. It's a labor of love what we do, and I love doing it. And anything that we can do to help keep you guys not just afloat, but really thriving, especially in this environment. That's literally what we are here to do 24/7. So again, don't feel like you're overstepping bounds or oh my gosh, I don't want to be a bother to them. This is why we exist. Is again to keep all of you just not only surviving but really thriving. So Terry, to answer your question, and that's an excellent question. I'm so sick and tired of, I've been on so many Zoom calls and it's like, how are you doing? I agree with this. So I love the thought forward thinking. From a chamber perspective, obviously our main clients are our businesses, right? Small, large, mostly here in the Northland, that's our bread and butter, but kind of all around the KC Metro. With our current circumstances having to transition over everything basically digitally, we've reached a whole new audience in the sense that we're now kind of reaching out directly to residents and citizens themselves, most of whom maybe aren't familiar with what a chamber is or does, and specifically to our sense, kind of what our role is. So what's kind of unique and fun about the Northland Chamber is we do have a business-to-business side of it, but we also have a policy side. And not many people are aware of kind of the policy side of what we do. And just kind of in a nutshell, that's like our government affairs side, planning and development, and just three recent examples. We ran the campaign to get the new single terminal up at Kansas City Airport. We just successfully received funding for a new Buckle Neal Bridge, or it used to be called the Broadway Bridge, connecting the city. And then something we just got secured 2 weeks ago was funding for the Northland Sports Complex, otherwise known as the big soccer complex that's going in off of 152 in Platte Purchase. So those are the things we have all kinds of meetings about. But we've now been able to reach a different set of people just through the fact that everybody's been online and just had more access to seeing that. Most recently, we just had our Excellence in Education event on Tuesday, and it's normally the largest event that we do in the entire state, where we go up to the KC Expo Center and there's 1,000 people, and we give awards out to all the teachers in the Northland, volunteers, businesses, educators in service. So like, your bus drivers, your custodians, your school nurses, etc. And we had to transition that event online. So it was actually really successful. We just did it Tuesday night and we recorded everything. We put it on YouTube and on Facebook Live. You can still watch it. But what we found out, which has actually been pretty special, is normally whoever comes to the event, it's all the teachers and principals and, those sort of things, our nominees and our honorees. And then of course, some of our sponsors, they'll buy a table. But the cool thing is with bringing it online, it was now all the families and people from out of town who got to see the program. So again, normally we'll have anywhere between 900 and 1,000 people at this banquet. But just on Facebook Live alone, we had 1,500 views who have already watched it. And that's when I checked it 2 days ago on Wednesday. And then on YouTube, we had 2.2 thousand views, totally different than Facebook Live. And it just keeps growing. My aunt or my sister or my daughter, whoever would normally will come to watch this event because they're out of town or they had another obligation or whatever, they now got to be a part of this. So I do think there's an opportunity for all of us, whether it's events or stuff that we do, to really reach a whole other audience of people who aren't even geographically located here. So that's kind of been our biggest takeaway from this, is just, okay, we kind of have a new demographic of audience here. And then, kind of more specifically, I mean, for me personally, I'm the event planner. And that's kind of, I've spent most of my time on so many town halls and webinars with all of our elected officials, learning an ungodly amount of information about these government loans. And I feel like I could work for a bank now or for the Small Business Association, because I have sat through so many flipping meetings just to try to push this stuff out to all of our businesses of here's this loan or here's this grant or here's whatever, Casey SourceLink, you guys did something a couple weeks ago, an amazing grant, and just trying to digest all that information, but then also push it out in a way it's in layman's terms and people understand it and not just, regurgitating government jargon, basically. So that's my spiel, and yes.
So Robert and I invited Jenny to talk to us today, just sort of about basically what she was saying, because she's talked to so many people, whether it's been legislators across the state or even getting information from all of the national chambers. And a lot of the national chambers have had some very interesting information. And one of the things in putting together our policies that Robert and I have looked at is sort of what's the reason behind it so that businesses can think about that when putting their policies together. I mean, one of the things that we thought interesting is that Kansas City, Missouri was one of the first to say, if somebody's gonna be there for more than 10 minutes, to have them sign in. And why is that? Well, it helps for contact tracing. So it's taking all of what's happening and all the great ideas and putting them together. And Jenny's gonna share some of those best practices with us. And it doesn't matter whether it's a brick and mortar or whether you're at home and you will be going out to places, or what to think about, what to look for in the places you choose to go to. And then also some of the data, I'm not sure what she was talking about, but shows that, hey, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So I'm going to turn it over to my fellow Kansas City Chiefs spirit person.
I got my Chiefs.
I don't have my
I did that just for you, Terry.
Thank you. It was so funny. We were before it was all closed up, we were in person somewhere, and there were 3 of us who had been either chiefettes or cheerleaders or yell leaders. Look, here we are, all these chamber people that love the Chiefs. So take it away.
Thank you so much, Terry. I just have about 10 minutes or so, then I'll open it up for questions. Basically, what it all comes down to right now, if I had to give any great piece of advice, it's consumer confidence. And right now, that is our job as employers to basically communicate. And when I say communicate, we cannot over communicate it enough. So what I mean by consumer, customer confidence is you want to make them feel safe and feel good about either going to their place of business, or if you're in the situation where you need to come to them, that you're going to feel comfortable in doing that. So I have it kind of broken down, some policies to consider. I'll start with the customer and consumer safety. So first thing, if you do have a brick and mortar store, what are you doing to keep that environment clean? Are you, like Samantha mentioned, are you doing something with your HVAC and any kind of like air purification, ventilation? Are you wiping down surfaces? How often are you wiping down surfaces? Are you just doing it at the end of the day? Are you doing it every hour, every 2 hours? Are you offering any kind of, PPE when people walk in? So, normally, I'm going to miss these days, probably not going to be there for a while, but you go into a boutique and they maybe would have a table there with like, some chocolate chip cookies or, some water or something. Probably not going to see that for a while, but maybe that's where you would now have like some wipes or some hand sanitizer available, or maybe some masks and some gloves. Do you set up some hand washing stations kind of around your store? So just, again, some things to kind of be thinking about if you haven't already done that. But what's really key to do is that you push that out to your customers so they know, so they feel comfortable in going to your store. And maybe this is stuff you've been doing all along, but whether you take photos, maybe you do a video, maybe you send out an email blast to just say, hey, this is what we are doing. Please come and visit us and know that you are going to be safe and healthy whenever you come here. Some other things Terry kind of mentioned, and it's different in each jurisdiction, whether you're, Clay, Platte County, Kansas City, kind of what is your capacity limit. So that's something to look up. if you need help, I have it for every jurisdiction here in the Kansas City Metro. It's all different, unfortunately, but there's no way to really control it. But you can decide, okay, since this is my distance or this is my capacity that I have to have, do I want to go ahead and open, or do I maybe want to take employees on a reservation basis or just an appointment basis? So just because the government has said, yeah, you can open, and you're kind of this like, well, I don't know what 10% of my fire code is, or 25% or whatever, you can say, okay, well, maybe we just make it by appointment only to start out, at least until June 15th or July 1st. And again, that's another thing that you can communicate out to your customer base so they can make the choice themselves to feel good about coming to you. Something else and that you can maybe suggest is, are you going to offer any kind of personal protection equipment? So is this going to be something that you are going to offer versus require? I know we've seen some kind of big box stores, Costco and Menards, say, no, you have to wear a mask and we're going to turn you away at the door. And there's been a lot of positive feedback from that, saying this is great. I am now a Costco customer for life. I feel safe. Every business should do that. And then, there has been some backlash of people saying, nope, you can't force me to go in there. I'm never going to go there again. Folks, there's no right or wrong reason to this, but these are things that you are going to consider, because there is going to be a situation where someone may come into your place of business without any kind of masks or gloves on, and someone else in the store is going to say, hey, are you to kick this person out, or what are you going to do about it? So just kind of be thinking about all those different policies that you as a business owner or manager need to have in place, and how you're going to handle those kinds of situations. Because right now, everybody has a different opinion of how everybody should open and what everybody should be doing. So if you can just lay that out and figure all that out ahead of time, if this happens, how are we going to handle it? Are we going to turn someone away at the door? Are we going to say, hey, we'll keep an eye on them, or do we offer them some masks and gloves, or here, hand sanitize, because those situations are going to come up, and they're not always going to be handled with grace. So any questions so far before I kind of get to the employee side of everything? Cool. Awesome. Okay. So next, and just
I actually have a question. I do have a question, because this has been kind of haunting me. So we're going to supply masks and hand sanitizer, that kind of thing. And so, the masks that we ordered, they come 50 to a group. And if we were to say, put them in a basket or something, how would we put them so that they say sanitized? Because you can't just open it up, because then it's, how do you do that? Or do you just have people ask for them?
Are they cloth or disposable masks? Like, are they meant to be more than once?
No, they're disposable.
Okay. So with that, if you want to have it like available at the door or outside, there are some businesses that are actually keeping, like the chamber, we're keeping our door locked. And so they have to knock on the door, and then, hey, how you doing? Right now for us, no one's coming to the chamber to shop or do anything. We have some yard signs that we're handing out for a school bond issue. So that's really the only reason why people need to come into our store. But for your place of business, if they don't have anything, that's a conversation we have to have with them. Hey, let me give you a mask. And if they're like, I don't want to wear a mask, nope, I'm going to wear whatever, this virus is fake, or it's a hoax, or whatever. That's a policy that, and again, there's no right or wrong answer. You can choose, okay, do I want to send them away, or what's the situation here? So that's something maybe
if somebody wants them. But my question is, how do we make them available for somebody to take and keep them sanitized for somebody, they're in a group? How do we make them available if somebody wants them, unless they just ask us? Does that make sense?
So just so a clarification what you're asking. So whenever they come to your place of business, you would give them a mask
if they want it.
If they want it.
Corky, you kind of shook your head. Do you get what my question is?
I think I do. And yeah, sadly, you can't reuse those. You can't do anything with them. If you give someone a mask, it's their mask. And then when they're finished with it, they dispose of it properly, not in your parking lot, which is what happens at Synergy.
If they're disposable, they're disposable, and there's no way to really like. I mean, I guess you can maybe try to throw them in the wash. I'm not sure.
I think what Terry's point is, if they're sitting out on a counter, how do they know that they haven't been contaminated one way or another?
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's the issue.
I would not set them out on the counter.
Yeah.
No,
and also
that would be something. As you as a manager, you know.
I have an idea, Terry, how we can manage it.
Okay. All right. Go on with next.
Okay. So that's kind of more from a customer's perspective. Some other policies that you should consider is your employees. So are you going to make them have any kind of PPE standards, whether they are working at your place or when they're going out? So like what Samantha was saying earlier, she works with HVAC and plumbers. I would push this out ahead of time that here's our policy. When you call us and a plumber comes out to you, they are going to be wearing masks. They're going to be wearing gloves. Again, it all goes back to this consumer confidence. And I would push out, you know, when you come and visit our store, we're going to have whatever it is, partitions, or we're going to have, you know, we're going to limit our cash transactions, and we're going to do something with like the card, you know, like the little square, I think it's just called the square, those little credit card readers, or whatever it is. You want people to feel comfortable that when they come into your store, that their employees are taking care of themselves and that you are giving them the proper equipment and necessities and things like that to take care of themselves. There's been a lot of discussion, and this is kind of a gray area, it adapts every day, about what do you do when one of your employees either tests positive or is maybe feeling under the weather and they're trying to get tested. How do you handle that? Make sure, kind of go over what you have, and so you're not doing anything illegal, right? So there's a lot of protection policies in place, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to find yourself in a lawsuit because you told someone, okay, well, if you were exposed or you think you have it, that you have to now quarantine for 14 days. And for that, you know, we're making you use all your vacation time, or you're not going to get paid or something. So go over all of those policies first with your employees so that everyone's on the same page. These things are changing day by day with the government, and they are constantly just saying what you can and can't get away with. We're pushing that as far as the chamber goes as much as we can, any kind of those updates. One of the most recent ones, if you have received a paycheck protection loan or a PPP, that's one of the things, you know, it turns into a grant if you're able to keep everyone on the payroll, and you're able to either rehire them by a certain date. And so what's been happening is, since unemployment has been beefed up, there are some employees, who have said, well, you know, I could just stay on unemployment because I'm making a heck of a lot more money here than I would at this job. And so you as an employer, you're saying, well, I can't hire back this person now because they're just content on making more money and staying on unemployment. So am I going to get penalized? The IRS recently came out last week and said, no, that's not going to be the case. And they said, what you now have to do is you have to provide a written letter to your employees inviting them back to work, saying, here's our situation. It's basically a CYA, you know, cover your ass kind of thing. That way, if they say, no, I don't feel comfortable, I whatever the reason is, you are now no longer liable, and they can't come back and, you know, try to sue you. But more importantly, from a financial side, that will be forgiven and not penalized if you have received any kind of government loan or grant. Again, it has to be in writing. Some other things to consider if you do have this luxury is just kind of some office setup. again, make sure, I hate the word social distancing, but that's going to be our new reality here for a little bit, to make sure that, you know, in your break room or kind of like your community conference rooms, that you have all of your seats kind of situated 6 feet apart. Same with your chairs and your desks. Are you going to put up partitions? And just little things like, you know, I know Samantha was saying some long-term situations and fixes, you know, like the touchless faucets and things like that. And that may be pricey right now, or it may take a while, but there's always things like the hand sanitizer stations that are touchless, or the paper towel dispensers. You know, long-term, getting some doors that don't have the handles that you have to open and shut, that you can kind of lean your body weight into, something like that. Again, it all goes back to consumer confidence, that if they're going to your place of business, or if you're visiting them, they want to feel safe. So with that, that's kind of all that I have. I do want to just kind of share some hopefully encouraging news and some statistics and data. This came out around here in Kansas City. This is something the Northland Chamber did. We sent out a big survey, and we partnered with the Mid-America Regional Council, the Kansas City Greater Kansas City Chamber of Commerce, and the Kansas City Area Development Council. We surveyed over 1,000 people, kind of all asking the same basic questions. 58% of people who responded said they expect demand for products and services to be back to February 2020 levels in the next 6 months. So this is good. This is encouraging. It's showing that people, okay, you know, this is our situation, but you also have to remember this was a self-induced recession that we're going in. I know there's a lot of comparisons being made to the 2008 one, but the 2008 recession, that was because we had a weak economy, and it was really kind of attacking our bank system. We put ourselves in this recession for the health and safety of everybody. And the fact that it's happening on a global level, that it's not just specific to our country, means that, okay, we're all in the same boat here across the world. So we can all, no one's has an advantage or disadvantage over anyone else. So that's great that is kind of that confidence level is there. 90% of people who responded have retained all their employees or expect to rehire all their employees after they've been laid off, which is always wonderful to hear. Also, another 70% expect to retain at least 75 to 100% of their workforce pre-COVID-19. We love hearing that as well. Obviously, the unemployment rate is skyrocketing, and some of that just has to do with the fact that it's been beefed up so much, but we're hoping that everything's going to go back to at least somewhat of a normal sense before too long. And things coming up, just kind of in talking to our legislators, the next round of funding and resources and kind of aid that we're going to see is going to be around Memorial Day weekend. We've all heard it referred to as the CARES Act. And this next round is going to be called the HEROES Act. And that stands for Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions. So that's the next legislation they're going to put forward. A couple of things, and I'm not going to get into all the museums and student loan debt, and there's going to be a lot of that in there. But mainly for business owners, what we can expect, if you have received a PPP loan, there's going to be an extended covered period of it. So right now it's only supposed to go through the summer. They're now saying, okay, if you have a PPP loan, or if you're planning on applying for a PPP loan, you're now going to be covered through December 31st of 2020, which is awesome. Right now, there is still plenty of funding in the PPP, and they're going to add more to it. And what they're also going to do, they have specified some of the qualifying organizations. So we're not going to see Shake Shack or the LA Lakers or Harvard University, these multi-million-dollar companies receiving $20 million. They've really kind of cut that out. But it is going to be kind of opened up to more nonprofit organizations. So before it was just 501c3s and 501c19s, which is your veterans organizations. But it will include 501c6 organizations, which are all chambers of commerce or 501c6s, and just kind of some other like C4s, some kind of senior, like I said, military veterans, or nonprofits that are nonprofits, but they don't necessarily have that 501c designation. The PPP funds are also going to be stretched over 24 weeks as opposed to 8 weeks. So that's a big critique of the funds right now is you got your fund and now you have 8 weeks to run its course. And people are saying, well, we're not going to be done with this thing in 8 weeks. So they've now said, okay, we're going to extend it to 24 weeks. Also, another thing it's going to do, you'll be allowed to defer your payroll tax payments. So this little thing that the IRS just did last week, it was kind of a dick move in my opinion. But they said that we are now going to tax you on the loan that you received. So, and I'll kind of put this in layman's terms. Let's say you got a loan for $500,000 from the PPP. And how it was sold and advertised is that loan will be forgivable. It'll turn into a grant if you do X, Y, and Z. If you use it to keep people on your payroll, if you use it to pay your mortgage or your rent or your utilities, things like that. And it's great and it's awesome line. Everybody went out and got one, and then the IRS now said, oh, we're actually going to tax you on it. So let's say your standard tax rate is 20%. So that's now $100,000 that you thought you had, but now you're being taxed on. So with this new legislation that will hopefully be passed in this next HEROES Act, they're going to eliminate that. This was something actually on a presentation with Dr. Chris Kuhl that all the regional chambers, we hosted a webinar a couple weeks ago. He's an economic forecaster, so this is a completely unbiased, rational opinion. They did a national poll of all the banks, and they all are really excited and encouraged about what our economy is going to look like. They all think that it's going to be a U-shape or a V-shape recovery, and not the dreaded L or the dreaded W of going back and rebounding with this virus. You know, unfortunately, since we are in an election year, this virus has been politicized, but we're all doing the best that we can to really to really get through this. According to the doctors and the scientists, they are encouraged by that. This virus has shown that it is in fact sensitive to heat and sensitivity. So that's why everyone's projecting that the numbers are really kind of going to slide down in the summertime and to hopefully stay down in the fall. Again, that's kind of the end of everything. I would just kind of wrap up by saying, you know, there's back to kind of the consumer confidence part of it. There's really kind of three types of people out there. There's the people who are going to go out and do whatever, no matter what. And we all are friends of them on Facebook. We've all seen them out in public where, you know, they're all out at Home Depot. They're not wearing their masks. They're not doing everything, whether they think this thing's a hoax or they're just like, you know what, if I get it and this is how I die, then this is all according to God's plan. There's, you know, so there's that group. Your second group of people, they're cautiously optimistic. So they're people who have, quote, re-entered society and they are going out, but they're wearing the masks and their gloves and they're being safe about it. And these are going to be the people who are going to visit your businesses if they know that your employees and you and your environment or the environment that you are taking out to them is going to be safe. And then your third group of people, they're just not going to go out, period. They're going to wait until the curve is completely flat, until there is a proven and effective vaccine available. We're still hearing that's going to be a year from now. And that's great or fine. You know, I wouldn't necessarily waste your time trying to get them into your store. You're going to be spinning your wheels. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, the first two groups are the majority of the people out there. So I hope that helps. I hope that was hopefully some wealth of information and maybe some ideas to kind of get everybody going. Any questions about anything specifically?
Thank you so much, Jenny. we've already run over our time, so I want to thank you. If you guys have any questions, we will send you Jenny's email. And then Jenny, would you just send to my